Welcome to the Whitetail Advantage Podcast with your host, Brett Bovin. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Brett Bovin. This is the show for all hunters and outdoorsmen alike, where we get together around the electronic campfire, share stories, learn strategies, and just overall become better human beings and get to know each other more as better people. And I swear, hunting is the best sport, best lifestyle that you can ever get. And I remember talking with the Squatch on Tuesday's show. Hunting teaches you more than just going out and killing an animal. It's going out and learning values that you don't realize that you're learning at the time of being out in the woods. It's something you learn over time. Anyways, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the show, we do a live show every Tuesday and Thursday on our YouTube channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the comment section, and I'll pop them up during the show. Usually the Deucer will be doing that, but we don't have the Deucer with us tonight. We'll hopefully be getting him back here next week or the week after that, but either way, we'll be getting him back here shortly. If you ever want to be a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to me on our social media platforms, or you can send an email to brettbovin@whitetailadvantage.com. I'm never going to tell anybody no. I'm always going to tell people that everyone's welcome on the show. I'll figure something out. We can get everyone on the show. We also have a saying on the show: put your core in the slot machine. What I simply mean by that is to help share the show. I strongly believe hunting is a dying sport. It's a dying lifestyle. Like I said a little bit ago, hunting numbers are declining rapidly, especially here in the state of Michigan, and the deer camp feeling is just gone. And trying to do the best that we can to bring that feeling back and to get more people out in the woods. Anyways, all I ask is to help share the show, help us get one new friend. That's all I ask. If you use the code GP10, you can get 10% discount off Gilly Puck products. Make sure to also check out Grizz Media and MAGNUS BROADHEADS. Now, as everyone knows, I can't stand doing the intro because I fucking hate it, but it's done over with. Now, let's get into the show here. It is Thursday, August 15th, and I pulled into work this morning, and as I'm reversing into my parking space, I look down, and I said it in the last show, I see more leaves on the ground, and I'm just thinking in my brain of like, it's fucking fall, man. Fall's around the corner. I can't wait. I can't wait to be in a tree stand. However, in Michigan, it's a tradition where I sit in the tree stand from sunrise to sunset. And I just know from based off the last couple of years, it's been hotter than the devil's ball sack. And I'm just preparing myself. So I'm going to try and get a little mini fan just to feel like I'm out there, just to cool myself off. But hey, it's opening day. It's tradition. You got to make it happen, man. It's opening day and it's the hunting season. Anyways, like I said, it's August 15th, Thursday. And it's episode 98. We're 2 episodes away from episode 100. I would also like to point out here a couple quick notes. August 29th, it's going to be our first fantasy football league. We're going to be doing a show August 29th on a Thursday, doing a live show with the fantasy football draft, everyone that's included. Also, the last Sunday of September, it's going to be September 29th, I believe. We're going to be trying to do a live show where everyone sends in their trail camera photos, and everyone's going to be allowed to come on the show, talk about the deer that you're going to be potentially trying to go after this year, and just to make a fun show because, like I said, we're going to be taking October 1st through November 14th off. Just trying to focus on time with the family and enjoying me out in the woods. So we're going to be possibly doing some shows in October of like some shows on Sundays for people that want to talk about their successful hunts, or on Tuesdays where we talk about random topics, whatever we want to talk about. But for the most part, we're going to be taking off that time. So we're going to be making a post of the last Sunday of September, send in your trail camera photos, and we're going to make a fun getting ready for the hunting season. It's like a hunt hype show, whatever you want to call it. Now, Now I'm officially done with the intro crap. Now let's get in our guests. It's New York. I see a comment in here already from the PSE Mobile Hunter. This year, they're predicting colder temps this October. Let's hope that is. I swear, I really hope it is, because if it's hotter than 85 degrees, I'm going to start to cry. Another comment here, Whitetail 101. The Bucks are coming right on schedule no matter the weather. We are ready. I don't, trust me, man. I still see the Bucks moving on the hot days on October 1st, but it just sucks being out in 89-degree weather, man. Oh, and he also says, and hey, fellas. All right, enough of me chatting. Let's get in our guest. And like I said, I'm running the show, so here it's just myself. So let's get in our guest, Dave. What is up, brother?
What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You having a good day?
Yep. I'm glad it's over. We get to kick back now, talk to the boys. We'll talk a little deer hunting.
Exactly, man. I love deer talk, man. For anyone that doesn't know you, can you give a little background about yourself, brother?
Absolutely. So my name's Dave Hawkins. I'm the creator and owner of Urban Pursuit, which is actually a trademarked logo and brand and service at this point as of a couple of weeks ago. So that's pretty cool. I'm based on Long Island, New York. And if anybody doesn't know where that is, I'm about 60 miles east of Manhattan. So it's that island, that strip that connects to New York State. And we got the best pizza and bagels around. If you're looking for that, I know my buddy Chris is watching. He's in New York State, but I got you beat as far as the pizza and the bagels go, buddy. So that's kind of like a running joke in the tri-state area.
Well, man, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about the hunting season out in New York and learn more about your strategies. And, man, everyone's tuning in for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Squatch, man, I love you. New brother of mine now. Let's see here. Boondocks Hunting. My guys, what's up? What's up, Mike? Also here, Whitetail 101. I have seen this Dave guy before. Have you met this guy before? You might have. It seems like.
That's it. We got the loyal following showing up. All you guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting Brett. And this is what it's all about, man. There's plenty of room for all of us in this outdoor space.
No, and that's what I love doing this stuff, man, because I get to interact with all these people, and I get to interact with everyone, and you meet new people, and next thing you know, you're becoming new friends, new brothers. And yeah, you might be in different states, but now you're texting now and learning more about each other. And you're like Squatch. I can text him at 2:00 in the morning. I know I'm not going to make him mad if he's still watching, but he's going to love me texting him at 2:30 in the morning saying, "Hey, man, I have some questions here."
That's it.
All right, man. Let's dive into your little hunting styles here.
Yeah, I mean, as far as my hunting background goes, I was fortunate enough, growing up on Long Island. Obviously, fishing is abundant, freshwater, but mainly saltwater fishing. I grew up in an outdoor family household, camping, fishing, hunting, primarily on my father's side. So ever since I was a kid, my dad and my grandpa always made an effort to take me and my younger brother out whenever they could. We do have some property in upstate New York. I think it's about 7 or 8 acres, and that was home base. Anytime we wanted to do like open a weekend for deer camp, or we go up for a couple of days in May for turkey season. Some of the best memories I have from a younger kid up there. It's truly amazing. Like, it's as rural as it still is. Like, I remember where we didn't have a road. Like, and if we saw a car or two in a day, like, it was like, oh wow, we had 2 cars pass that day. And it was just so nice to go up there. And I wish I could go back to how it was, present day. A lot of people coming up from the tri-state area, they're building on it. They're establishing, setting up roots, that's fine. They got every right to. But it was, as a kid, I could walk out of the trailer with my shotgun during turkey season. Walk out the trailer, go down the hill, cross the street, go up the next hill. We had 300 acres across the street with the dairy farmers. So, like I said, I owe a lot of my passion for the hunting and the journey that I'm on, directly to my dad, my grandpa. And hunting really filled that void for me. Baseball was my life. It was a huge part of my life, all the way up to high school and after high school for a short period. And then once that ended, I golfed, I fished still. I always enjoyed fishing with my dad or my brother or whoever. But there was something about the archery hunting. I really wanted to take that to the next level, just continue it, and really just really dive into it and kind of take that void that I had from baseball and now, fill that with archery hunting. And slow and steady progress, I would say. I grew up hunting pieces, maybe like 3 acres, 5 acres, real suburban style hunting, which you could have a lot of action one day or you could have no action. It is that style of hunting where if they're coming through and they're there that day, they're going to be there in great numbers. If they're not, you're going to have a long, lonely sit. It's just that style of hunting. But as I progressed as a hunter, into more recently now, let's say the past year or two, you can really learn how to capitalize on those small pieces of woods, which is quite interesting, especially for where we're at.
When you say small, how small are you piece of land are you hunting?
Literally, like when I first started going, it was like 3 or 5 acres. Just these little, side lots, whether they were just abandoned, owned by the county. That wasn't true like public land hunting like I'm doing now. I was fortunate enough that I guess I was getting close into my mid-20s. We had 2 properties that we were able to hunt, and we had full permission on the East End out in the Hamptons. And that's where I got some of my first year. It was great. I was always going out there with my dad. A lot of times my younger brother would come with us. It was great. We could park right in the driveway. We had full permission. It was a good sized property, and it was a great learning experience. Unfortunately, about 2 years ago, there was a situation in the family, actually a death in the family. And then a lot of the properties, obviously, because of the value out there, it got ugly between the family members. So once we got wind of that, we really didn't try and pursue it to get permission again. We knew the one family member was looking to sell it. So like, you know what? We have all this public land available to us. That was my first season. I'm going on to my 3rd season now of public land. So about 3 years ago was when I had to make the switch from, somewhat of private hunting to full on public land hunting. And what a humbling journey that has been. I can promise you that. Whatever I thought I knew about archery hunting, I almost started over.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But in a good way. You go from hunting now 3 to 5 acres or 10 to 15 acres. Now you're on 5, 6, 700 acres, which I know for some other states that's still small, but for me, that's a whole other world, without a doubt.
What was the biggest challenge trend that you realized going into hunting public land? What was like the biggest one that was like, this is what I really got to overcome and learn the most?
You definitely got to step up your woodsmanship. Obviously trail cameras and cell cameras are a tool. They're a tool. If you use them too much, they could be a crutch. Your woodsmanship really needs to get elevated if you want to really start tackling this public land and be effective. And that is one thing I definitely learned early on. Even deer density, until your woodsmanship is good enough to put you in a spot where the deer density is good, sure, then you start finding the beaten down trails, you find your bedding areas, you find the scrapes, but that takes a while to get there. I'm kind of proud at the fact that I really cut my stripes. That's definitely the first season, hunting 50 times a year for the first 2 seasons on public, and I'm finally going into year 3 of full public hunting where I feel very confident. I don't want to jinx it or nothing, but I actually feel like I'm in a very good position. I'm happy with the choices I made as far as stand locations, my game plan for early season. See what happens. We got some time to go, but right now the trail cameras are starting to switch from summer patterns into fall patterns, which is good. My cell cameras are normally slow over the summer as opposed to like mid-August, which is right around this time period. I purposely place them in the spots where I know they're going to transition closer to the season. So I'm actually getting to the point now where I'm actually starting to get some really nice buck activity.
Yeah.
These guys with the comments. This is what I was telling you about.
I know. I love it. Everyone out here. Someone made a comment here. We're a giant family or something like that. And I was like, dude, that's the truth, man. That is the truth. The Squatchy says, does anyone know this turban pursuit?
Yeah, that's another running joke. Yep. We can't ban Brett. You guys can joke around on our show. We can't have him banned with the turban jokes. All you guys, thank you for tuning in. It's awesome. I appreciate the support.
Am I allowed to know there's turban pursuit?
I honestly forget what it was about. I think it was a typo in one of the chats or something. We were on somebody else's live, and I think I typed turban or something like that. I don't even remember.
Oh, okay.
It's not as long standing as the phone poll joke, which I'm sure will come up sooner or later.
No, Mike here's coming to comment. You should see us all in person. It's all right.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
And if I remember right, I remember seeing Mike. They did his banquet, I think it was called, and that you guys were all there. A lot of everyone tuning in for tonight was actually at that banquet as well in New Jersey.
He does like an annual like a meet and greet. We do a target shoot. That's the second year he did that recently, and we were all there. Squatch was there, Chris Simone Bose, Frank, a bunch of us. If Squatch, if I didn't say Squatch, he was there. They do a great job. That whole team in Jersey, you know, Mike owns and runs that team. They do a great job. They're very supportive. They're very open for all the other crews. But he actually did do a game dinner. I think it was his first annual game dinner recently as well. So they do a good job.
Yeah, I remember being on with Mike. So if I'm still invited, I'd still like to come if it's in let me know when.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack here now. So hunting in public land. So for me, I have hunting on private property. I know generally where all the deer are moving. I have my stand locations. I have good areas. There's areas obviously I want to try out in different places. Have you kind of stuck to a certain area in the public woods, or are you kind of just, you know what, this is a new area, I'm going to try a new area out these years, or I'm learning moving into the public land hunting, so I kind of want to stick to the kind of the same area?
Yeah, my first year, I was all over. I'm like, I would do a morning hunt here, hop in the truck around whatever, 11, drive 30 minutes away, try a completely different spot. I kind of did that in a way because I could only scout so much in the summertime. Everybody's limited with their summer schedules, life, work, whatever you got going on. Honestly, that first season, I was more dedicated to my morning hunts, and then my afternoon hunts, I was scouting a new piece on the way in, find the hottest sign I could, and set up shop for the night. And that's kind of how I took my whole approach for the first season. That was the easiest way for me to really load up that Onyx with in-season intel, learn as many spots as I could to have, you know, a backup spot, a tertiary spot, in case you show up one morning or afternoon and the spot's full. You got to have a backup plan for that plan. You know, in the early season, a lot of these spots, they get hunted hard. You know, the guys they're eager. I would say up until probably early November, and then you'll definitely see a lot of the traffic slowing down, which is great. Like I said, I love going. I'm fortunate enough with the way my work schedule is. Me and my wife, we don't have kids yet. My wife is very, very understanding that this is such a big part of my life now. So a big shout out to my wife, Kate, all my family and friends. Honestly, I'm MIA from October 1st until the end of the season, and it's not because I don't love my family and friends. They're everything. They're so important. They just happen to know that like this is a huge part of my life and what I'm trying to do. So I have kind of narrowed down into this season. It's a large public land spot, but I've narrowed it down to a section, let's say. And for me, it's a cedar swamp. It's very low in elevation. We really don't have a lot of huge elevation changes here on Long Island. Where I'm at, I'm averaging anywhere from maybe 10 feet above sea level to at most maybe 50. So, you know, for me, a ridge, or let's even call it a bench, I'm only, if the peak is at 20, my bench is, you know, 10, 15 feet, but it's still a bench. You know, it's still just enough where they're skirting that hill. Cattails, saltwater marshes, anything like that, where you can actually see, you know, the hollow of the cattails where they're coming in and out of. But the tricky part with that, well, it's actually a good thing, is a lot of times they border up to like an oak flat or some other natural food source. So a lot of times you will get food source with a nearby bedding area somewhere in like these cattail marshes or just these real low-lying areas where it's just real thick to get into.
I know my buddy, he hunts in this area where there's a lot. It's watered down but swampy, but you can kind of got like little pockets where it's like little pieces of island, and it's just cattails galore.
Yep.
And he hunts that area hard, and I've never had the ability to hunt in that type of setting before. And I've heard people and seen success of people hunting near those type of areas, because it just seems like they want to go in there, these mature bucks, and it's like a sanctuary. But I think the hardest problem is trying to figure out where they're going to get in and out of it, and where am I going to set my tree stand up.
Correct. I think I still take more of a conservative approach as far as when it comes time to actually hunt those scenarios. I scout very aggressively. I scout very intensely and hard and thorough. But like I said, when it's during the season, I think I'll tend to take more of a reserved approach. If I know where they're coming in and out of, I'll stay back. Yeah, I'll stay back that 20 to 30 yards, do my best guesstimate with the wind and thermals, and give myself the best, maybe like quartering away shot or perpendicular shot I can get. I don't really go busting into. I know a lot of guys like that bump and dump mentality. I think there is something to that as far as those deer will want to come back. I'll be honest, I'm just not there yet. That's a very precise technique, and you have to do it right. Otherwise, that deer won't come back. It has to be a very soft bump to get them to end. I'm at the point I want to continually place myself with the highest deer population. Just keep giving myself the best chance at harvesting. I'm completely fine with harvesting does. If I end the season with 3 or 4 does in the freezer, that's fine. I'm in a little bit of a dry spell with an archery buck, so I'm definitely looking for some antlers this season. But at the end of the day, there's no recalls on venison, and the way this world is going, I'll be happy to stack my freezer full of that.
Right. Only bows. Did Dave just say bump and dump?
Yes, I did, Chris. So that's producer Chris from Only Bows. That's my right hand man.
Nice. I remember talking with Andrew Fitzgerald. He says he lives and dies by the bump and dump.
Yes.
And it's something that you really don't hear a whole lot about, because I think it's more of that comes with a lot of experience of trying to narrow that in, especially. And he went on to saying something about people will use their wind, like the wind, to get their scent into an area to kick them out, to get them to where they want them to go. I can't remember the phrase or the terminology that he called it, but he was saying people would do that.
Yeah, and that's where you gotta know your skill set as a hunter. You gotta be realistic with your stuff. You're not gonna fool the deer. You're not gonna lie to the deer. I'm not there. Like I said, I take a very simplistic approach, and I just trust my scouting. I use a lot of cell cameras. I do. I was fortunate enough to get accepted to the Moultrie Field Staff team. I was using those cameras beforehand, to be honest. The Moultrie Edge cameras, it's a very simple platform. It's a very effective platform. The app is really intuitive with all the features they have now. But again, you gotta, and Chris and our other teammate Rob, they called me out a lot of times last year. Like, you did your scouting already over the summer. You need to sit your ass in a tree and hunt. Like the areas you're in. You know these areas have deer. Stop. You're overthinking it. And 100%, they were right. I caught myself a couple of times, and if I just kind of would have stayed put and be a little bit more static and trust my scouting, I would have had opportunities at some very large caliber bucks, which do exist here on the island. It's impressive what's hiding out here.
Yeah. PSC Mole here, he said, I use that once in a blue moon if I need to, in an area, can be successful if done correctly. I mean, it seems like that would take a lot of planning to do the bump and dump type style.
Yeah, I happen to agree with Whitetail 101. You don't want to why add pressure to the deer. He had a comment. I feel like a complete failure if I bump a deer, any deer. I kind of take that approach. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's going to happen. You're going to, in a way, maybe walk into your stand. All right, at least there's deer in the area. And again, you got to remember, like these public land spots that I'm hunting, they're also bike trails. They people use them just to walk their dogs, just to walk, mountain bike. So it really,
Did you really use hair makeup?
Yes. So I'm in a unique scenario where these deer are accustomed to getting bumped by humans. They're accustomed to seeing humans, smelling them, hearing dogs barking. The lawnmowers are going leaf blowers from all the suburban areas. So it's a little different. Like, it's not like I'm 50 miles remote. These deer have never even smelled a human before. So walking in, if I bump deer in the morning, I'm just continuing on, because I have noticed where, let's say I'm walking out, say I'm walking back out to my truck now, and I can see deer out of the corner of my eye. If I keep walking, they're just going about their thing. The minute I stop, that's when the tails go up, the does start blowing, and it's game over. So there is something to that, where if I see the deer and I'm already heading out to the truck anyway, just keep walking. Just act like you're hiking on that trail. And I really do think they get used to some type of pressure.
Whitetail 101. He said, hang on, that's not the one. Yeah, there's the 101. These bucks use their environment. One frog stops croaking, and he's slipping out. Axis is key for me.
Yeah, he's very big about that, and it's true. You know, a lot of guys will rake their trails. You know, in the summer they'll get a leaf blower out. It's, if you have the capability to do that, without a doubt. You know, I don't want to bring too much attention as far as like where I don't use glow tacks too much. I use them very sparse. You know, I use the tracker on my Onyx. I don't want a lot of glow tacks. I don't want a lot of visible sign for other hunters at that point to maybe narrow in where I'm going. So if I kind of brushed out a trail all the way to my tree, that's not too conducive to helping me out in a way.
It's like a big giant arrow is like, this is where I'm hunting in this direction.
It's like if the guy took the time to brush a trail out, I would sit in that stand. Why not? It's worth a shot at least one time. So I have had some funky encounters on public. Now, I had a Subaru, I shit you not, a Subaru with two teenagers in it driving. Beautiful morning on the hiking trail. I don't know fully how they got their car that far into the woods, because most of the park entrances are barricaded. But I had 6 does coming in perfectly on a beeline. I was ready to go. It's going to be a perfect morning. Does are about 50 yards away, and I hear a honk. I'm like, is that a car honking? I'm like, there's no way. There's no fucking way there's a car honking right now. And then it turns, and I see the headlights. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then here it comes again. Then the two kids get out. They slam the doors. They're walking around talking. I'm like, well, and I look to my left. Those deer are gone. I'm like, public land, man. If you want to talk about some funny public land stories, I got them.
Mike here, he made a comment. I've done that and it works very well, sneaking in early, but it also, deer use my trails, but only use it in spots where other hunters don't think to hunt.
Yeah.
And I rake my trails because I'm private, but everyone knows where each stand is on the property. So I feel like you can kind of get away with that on private land compared to public land. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like, here, you follow this trail and you're going to lead right to my stand. I'm helping you out. But you using those, that's a great idea to be able to kind of like help yourself in a way.
Yeah, I use the main access trail. Like I said, if I know I got to go a mile in, I'm going to stay on that main trail as long as I can. And then whenever the last point I have to branch off and start, getting into the woods, that's when the Onyx comes into play. So that is the one good thing about having all these trails already pre-cut. My access is pretty good. And then when you got to drag something out, it's not bad either. You got a nice clean trail to drag it out on.
Let's transition into what's it like to hunt in New York.
Like I said, man, it's so diverse. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead. I was going to say, what's the terrain like?
Yeah, it's so diverse. Like I said, you go out to the East End and you get out into the Hamptons there, and on the South Shore, at some spots you're going to be hearing the ocean. You're going to be looking at the ocean. You go up on the North Shore, you're going to be hunting behind multi-million-dollar wineries, and you got the Long Island Sound. You go out to Montauk, you could be up on like 100-foot bluff, and then you come back down 50 yards the other way, and you're in the thickest mountain laurel patch you can ever find, and it's just that from like 2 miles. And then you come out of that, and you're in 8-decade, century-old pine barrens. It has everything except a lot of elevation. The North Shore, so basically runs horizontal. On the North Shore, there will be some more elevation changes as opposed to the South Shore, which is more overall flat and beachy. But it has everything the deer need, especially these suburban homes where all they do is they eat the lawns, they eat all the plants, the hosta plants. Like, I really think that's why the racks on Long Island get to the size they do. They're eating such nutrient dense forage that comes in the form of people's property, essentially.
Not to quickly change the subject here, but let's play a quick little game here.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a funny one. So obviously, you can only see my top up. My wife wanted me to kind of see if I was going to do this. I had the balls to do it, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's take a vote if I'm wearing pants or if I'm just in my underoos right now.
Oh, man.
Let's see.
How about me? Does that bet go both ways?
It goes both ways.
All right.
Put Brett, yes or no, and Dave, yes or no. Let's see what we get here.
I tell you what, it's casual Thursday night here. I got Crocs and gym shorts on, but up here I look nice and professional.
Whitetail 101 swim trunk. I got moccasins on at least, and throw that.
There you go. There you go.
PSC mobile hunter here, thong.
No, thank you.
I can't wear that.
Thank you.
All right, boys, time for me to drive home from only bows. Whitetail 101 man thong. A banana hammock. Basically. Plum smugglers.
Nice. I haven't heard that one in a while.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
My type of people. I like it.
Yeah, love it. Take it sleazy, fellas. See you later, buddy.
Later, Chris. Be good, buddy.
Let's talk about the tags in New York. How many tags can you get in the seasons? Squatch mentioned the hunting seasons. Let's talk about the tags.
Okay. On Long Island, so there is even a difference between my Long Island zone and like the main New York State zones. So on Long Island, I can get essentially unlimited doe tags. So I shoot a doe, I log onto the app, I report it, fill out the paper tag, email DEC, and about a week to 10 days, they'll mail you another paper copy. You can keep doing that all year round. As far as bucks, I get 2 buck tags. So one, if I misspeak here exactly, again, this is just, but it's you get 2 buck tags. So one for regular season, and then an archery or muzzleloader season. So the regular season would be quote unquote, let's call that rifle season in Maine State, New York. We don't have a rifle season though. So either one of those buck tags can be used during archery season.
So you can get 2 buck tags?
You can get 2 bucks and unlimited does, yes.
And unlimited does.
Yeah.
And how do you, so unlimited doe tags, is there a certain, can you reference that again of how you can you get the unlimited? Like, is it just like once you fill, can you only buy one at a time?
Yeah, you only get one. Like when you go and you pick out all the, you need your big game, your small game, bow, muzzle loader, all that. So when that all prints out, as far as the doe tags go, I apply for my zone on Long Island, which is 1C, and I also apply for a doe tag for during the regular season up in New York State. That zone happens to be 4G. That's where my family's property is. Up in 4G, I'm not guaranteed a doe tag. So if I don't get it one season, I get a preference point. Or if you don't get it, you get a preference point. Normally, after about 2 or 3 preference points, that following year, you'll get one. But on Long Island, you're always guaranteed a doe tag for 1C. So opening day, I shoot a doe, I tag it. Good, I tag it, I go on the app, we log it, and then you email DEC. I think they want like a picture of the head, picture of your tag, some simple information. They mail you another doe tag, and that process can just keep repeating itself.
Whitetail 101, North Carolina, you get 8 doe tags. In South Carolina, you get unlimited doe and $5. Wow.
Yeah.
PSC 100 here says, how much are tags there?
My full season's probably right around like $80 or so, 80 to $90. Big game, small game.
That's not bad.
Yeah. The deer density and the population, they've tried a lot of things on the island in particular. A lot of times you go out, for anybody that has been out on the east end of Long Island, you'll see deer, primarily does, walking around with ear tags. A lot of these deer have been tagged. I don't know the full system behind that. I think it's something that they use chemically to actually limit the numbers, so that's why they target the does. I think that they can't reproduce essentially after that point. They have brought in, federal sharpshooters in certain towns to actually rifle hunt them at night, I believe. There's a lot of odd things that New York State has tried. I get why they're trying to do it. I think a more practical approach would be open up some of these spots that we're not allowed to hunt, but are absolute hunting holes for deer habitat. Obviously, it's easier said than done. You got to control it somehow, but either give us more tags. I don't know about extending the season. I'm okay with the season. It goes from October 1st until the end of January. For us, if you start getting into February, March, and you're dropping does, you could be dropping does that have already been, they could have a fetus in them essentially at that point. And there's a very fine line of how far you can go. Now, the question could we open it earlier? Maybe we get a chance at some velvet deer, some velvet bucks. That would be interesting.
Yeah. With New York being primarily a blue state, is there any laws or regulations that you would like to see changed or modified or implemented in New York?
I would like to be able to run mineral, especially if you have a private property. So we can't bait, we can't run mineral. Pretty much anything that has a nutritional value to the deer, it's considered baiting. So we can't run anything. So we really, I think mineral, especially when you own private property, and again, there's a lot of different scenarios. If main state New York, let's say I had 50 acres, or let's say my family's property was 50 acres. Like, why can't I put out mineral to help the local deer herd? Now, that mineral itself, when combined and put out effectively with the water source, that just helps keep your deer herd healthy. It helps antler growth. It helps the does when they're getting ready to reproduce and everything. It helps the fawns. So, like, why can't we do that? I know there's been scares of EHD and CWD. Like, we had a taste of that here on the island. The EHD for about 2 months or so. We had a large herd of deer go down. It was tough. So they're like, well, I think DEC stance is they congregate. They're in close encounters. Whatever particles from saliva can get transferred. What do you think they're doing on the licking branch, or when they open up a scrape, or they lick each other just naturally? So I mean, that cross contamination it's going to happen no matter what. Maybe that's why their stance is maybe it can limit it by eliminating any feeding or mineral. I think a lot of hunters would take, if they had to choose between being able to feed or bait and put out mineral. Well, actually, I don't know. Baiting and feeding is different, but I think mineral would be a good first step, and then you kind of go from there.
I think in Michigan, a lot of people, everyone knows my stance on baiting. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. My personal preference is I'm not going to use it because everyone knows that my hunting style, I like to do as least as possible because I like to do wit versus wit type of deal. But I think I agree with you where I think the very first thing that we would like to be changed is being able to put mineral out to help them through the off season, because in New York's basically just an extended version of Michigan, where you get a very rough and harsh winter. The weather is basically the same in Michigan and New York, basically.
Yes.
So they're going through a lot. Then you have, they're fighting through the rut. They're trying to fight for food. And then you got all that combined. And now they're basically, all these bucks are depleted. On top of the does, they're all depleted because they've been running away from these horny dudes.
Yep.
We want to put the mineral out there because it's getting the energy back into them that they need to get stronger, get healthier. And if you put out the correct mineral, where does the buck's antlers come from? It comes from their skeletal system, from all the calcium that was built up into it. If they get the right minerals into their system, you're going to help create bigger and better deer and a better herd of deer. So that's why I think a lot of people would love to see minerals put in place compared to just putting baiting out there. We want to see more quality deer compared to seeing that one small 80-point buck once in a while.
Right. I'm curious why mineral got such a bad stigma. Let's go. Like, how did mineral end up in the same category as feed or bait? You know, it's
my guess it's the same thing as because we had the EHD, the blue tongue going around a couple of years, and all the states that are primarily blue states, they're like, well, no, we got to make sure we protect the deer herd. But that was years ago, and they're constantly sharing spit left and right when they're out there on their own. So whether I look at it like this, you got apple tree. Apples are falling right from there, and they're all eating the same apple. What's different between those apples that fell from that tree compared to me bringing out a pound of apples and putting it out in a different area?
I totally agree with you. Yeah, I share the same mindset. They're going to interact, like I said, between licking branches, natural food sources, scrapes. Scrapes one of the dirtiest things in the deer woods. If you want to talk about gross contamination, I mean, there's everything in there. It's like the porta potty on a job site. It's got everything in there in an active scrape. So honestly, to kind of roll it back almost to the beginning and talking about woodsmanship, I've learned how to invest in scrapes and approach scrapes and realize how vital and how much they can actually tell you. You know, we get a nice, hot, fresh scrape that's getting worked daily. You do some research on it with the cameras. Now you got your doe groups coming through there. You know, Whitetail 101, he's kind of blown the doors open on keeping track of fawns. So now if you can kind of keep track of when those fawns were dropped, roughly how old they are, combined with scrape techniques and all this other woodsmanship that you're only going to learn by doing it. You're going to fail. You're not going to have the right answers all the time. Just keep going. If you're truly interested in making this a part of your life, you're going to have struggles. Like I said, the past 2 seasons on public, I hunted 50 times each season, not to be like a tough guy or to say I hunted 50 times this year. All right, great. I got a couple does under my belt, but you know how much experience I've learned in sitting 100 times in 2 seasons on public? That you can't duplicate that unless you do it, you know? So yes, is my goal to not have to sit 50 times to punch my tags or fill the freezer to the point where I'm satisfied? Of course. You know, if I could do that in 20 to 30 sits, that's more time with family, friends, everything that we talked about earlier. You know, but it's just, it's all tied together. This is one of those rabbit holes I didn't want to go down, but to get back to the mineral and your direct question, if I had to choose between bait and mineral, I would love to see them loosen up on the mineral restrictions.
So I went to public school in the mountains. I can barely time.
He's very modest, without a doubt. Anybody that does it, I'm pretty sure everybody here knows him. But if you haven't, definitely go check out Whitetail 101. Squatch, he was just on Tuesday night here on this program. Definitely go check. All these guys they have been such an asset for myself, 100%. I can reach out to them anytime with questions, and I truly appreciate both of those guys. So I'm glad to have them as friends at this point.
Yeah, everyone here is great, man. Yeah. Next question here is for someone that wants to come out to New York, that's out of state, what would be some things that you'd need to tell them? This is what you should prepare for. This is what you should start training for and start looking out for and be known of.
I would say public land property that you have suburban houses relatively close. what's going to happen is those deer are just going to naturally get pushed deeper and deeper, which is essentially now the backyard of somebody's house. Only because of they know they're safe there. There's an abundance of food source there. You're gonna come across things that aren't natural in the woods, but you can use them to your advantage, like a fence. A fence will now create a natural pinch point or a funnel to some extent. These hiking trails, depending on which way they're crisscrossed through there, that can create now like these saddles where these deer will literally just bed down in between two trails. There's so many things. It's hard to kind of pinpoint on a few. I've always focused on water, especially here on Long Island. You're going to be in low elevation. I guess just when I walk into an area, it just looks like if I walk in, I'm like, I know there's deer in here, and now I know there's bucks in here. If you're covered up in mountain laurel, a cedar swamp, water, and you can just tell that these mature bucks know that you're not going to sneak in on them because they're going to hear you. They already smelled you coming because they got the thermals and the wind right. It's just now, where do you set up? That's like the golden question, and that's the hardest question all the time. And that's, like I mentioned, I'll be a little bit more reserved, and instead of busting too far into there, you better be damn sure I'm gonna be all over that perimeter, whether it's setting up different stand locations like pre-hung sets. I got into saddle hunting this year, so I do have a saddle platform and setup that I will be using, which is definitely going to be a huge advantage for me, because I was primarily just a climber hunter, and I had one pre-hung stand on public land. So between now having my pre-hung sets, like I'm still keeping the climber, but now that saddle platform is really going to be that game changer where if I want to make that late morning move and get a little bit more aggressive, get a little bit closer, or even if the wind changes, now I'm so versatile. I'm not cutting limbs down to get my climber up. If I can only go up 2 sticks or 3 sticks and I can tuck behind the tree and stay in the cover, I'm good to go.
I'm starting to think Dave. What's in the zoo? Can you dive more into the thermals?
I will go as far as my knowledge takes me. A simple way, if somebody is confused by thermals, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, you want to hunt the top of the mountain in the morning and the bottom of the mountain in the afternoon. Obviously, as the air warms up, everything tends to rise. Hot air rises. As it tends to cool, it's going to get a little bit heavier, a little bit denser. It's going to want to drop. The tricky part and the really interesting part now is you have wind, speed, and direction. You have thermals. They're not always going to show you the same thing. I'm a big fan of milkweed as opposed to like the powder wind checks, because now I can actually watch that milkweed do its natural course. It's going to go up, down. It's going to twist. It's going to turn. But I tell you what, sometimes it comes right back to you. And you can't see that with a powder because the powder will dissipate sooner than you can see that. I love seeing that. I love seeing that milkweed almost go out about 10 yards and just drop straight down. That's like best case scenario for me. If you got that milkweed now coming up or straight above would be good. But if it's reaching out like 100 yards and just swirling around, that's really not ideal as the hunter, because that deer is going to get that cross scent and they're going to know you're there. But now you add something like a large body of water or a moving water, like let's say the ocean, for example, where I'm at on Long Island, you will be close enough to the ocean. What the hell does the Atlantic Ocean do now to the thermals? I don't know enough about that, but it's just another factor. Does that favor the wind direction? I would think so. I think the wind direction with the ocean at that point would kind of align. But again, the elevation changes, moving water, I know 100% changes the thermals and the wind. I think at that point, you got to practice the best scent control that you feel is necessary. I use the Scent Assassin. I definitely pre-coat all my clothes. Probably in like another 2 weeks or so, I'm going to take out all my hunting gear. One thing I'll do is I'll actually get a fire going in the backyard. I take out all my deer hunting clothes, and I just start hanging around the fire. That's honestly the first step I do, and I lightly smoke everything. And then as long as there's no rain in the forecast, I'll let them hang outside for a day or two, spray them down with the Scent Assassin, and then they go right back into the hunting bin. It's got a couple cedar branches, a couple pine branches. That's it. I don't really go like I don't have like a scent crusher bag or anything like that. I've never gone that far into the scent control. Again, where I am, these deer see and smell humans all the time. But again, I also don't know how many deer I've busted that I haven't seen because they've smelled me. So it's a very fine line, as far as the scent control. Man, these guys are loving the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, rising tides.
More consider rising, falling tides. Incoming tide creates high pressure. Outgoing tide sucks air. It's a good way to break it down. And everyone's got their own little scent control, like this is what I like, or their bias, whatever you want to call it. And like for me, my thing is, I think more natural odors. So for instance, what I do is I'll clean all my clothes in the washer with scent-free washing stuff, soap, whatever, and then I'll hang it up outside, and I'll put like this netting type stuff around it to try to make sure there's no bugs and stuff like that, and keep rain and stuff like it away, just to keep it that nice, fresh air smelling, natural type feeling is odor as possible. Because I like scent, I try to do the same thing as I always do, but I personally try not to get too much wrapped into the scent and odor control, because I said this is going to be my first year trying leaving one of my hunting clothes up in my tree stand so the deer get used to my odor. Because I live in a neighborhood where, and I've seen it going to college when I was going to WMU, you got bucks moving through the middle of cities and towns, and they get used to them. So I'm thinking, you know what if I can train the deer to get used to the same scent, basically, and they don't get so startled by it.
Interesting. I've never heard of that approach. I've heard of guys like leaving like cutout silhouettes in their ladder stands, stuff like that. Like if they'll have like the camo netting, but again, like above the shooting rail, you're always going to have some type of silhouette. So even in the off season, kind of like what you're saying, you get the deer accustomed to, all right, when they look up, they're going to see one or two silhouettes up there. So, I mean, that's definitely an interesting concept. I've never heard anybody attempting it with the clothes, though.
It's something, I've been wanting to do it for a couple of years, and this is going to be my first year where it's like, you know what, I'm willing to try it. And I just think as hunters, we always got to be trying something different, something new, and try becoming better at. And I say it too. It's like, what's the problem with trying it for a couple of years? And you know what? It might suck. It might turn out to be a complete fucking failure. But you know what? At least I can say I tried that. That didn't work. Now I got experience saying, hey, the next Joe Blow 10 years down the road, and they're like, I'm thinking about doing this. I said, I tried it. Don't do it. It's not going to
work. I think at the end of the day, especially if a new hunter happens to roll across this, or at any point, the scent control, I think it's always going to come down to learn to execute like your wind control, and really focus on the wind. When you have a good feed on that, start diving into the thermals a little. When you're a new hunter, like I said, my first couple of years now on public land, I took a very humbling couple of steps back, and I treated myself like I was just starting to hunt again, because essentially I was. You just focus on one thing at a time. Focus on the wind. Like I said, you get that down. All right, now let's start thinking about the thermals. Think about your cover. If you got the wind in your favor and you got cover in your tree stand or whatever you're in, and you're sitting still and you're not fucking around on your phone, you got a good chance right off the bat with that.
Right. And I said this too, where it's like you obviously set yourself up in the best possible position where the wind's in your favor, obviously. But at the end of the day, these are still wild animals. They're still wild creatures. They're deer. You can do all your best planning and thinking and knowledge that you think, though, all right, that deer is I'm 95% sure it's going to come. It's going to come from the west. All of a sudden, it's coming from the east, and the wind's blowing that direction. And you're like, fuck me, man. I did everything right. And that's hunting, though. So you got to get used to it. I mean, you can do all the planning and stuff like that. And the term, what was it? Analysis paralysis. You can get to that point, but at the same time, it's still hunting. Go out there and enjoy hunting, but do it in the smart way possible.
look at the anatomy. Look at the anatomy of a white-tailed deer. Like how many times you get that close-up picture of a deer comes in, it's right here on camera. Look at the length of the snout. Look at the size of the snout. Look at the size and shape of the eyeballs and where they're actually located on the deer. So not only are they round, they're oblong, but they're also set to the side. I think it's almost like 270 degrees they can see like in one clip. And now you add these satellite dishes for years up on the top, combined with that long snout of theirs, it's almost amazing that we ever beat them. It's centuries and centuries of evolution to survive. These deer, literally, all these senses are just, they're so finely tuned for them just literally to survive predators. Whether it's us in the woods or states that actually have natural predators, it's so impressive. And that's where I have so much respect for the deer. And that's a big reason why I love running so many trail. I love running trail cameras because I actually just enjoy it. I love watching a doe interact with their fawns, or that young spike locking up with the 4-pointer that's probably his brother or whatever. Or when you get that big slammer buck coming in, but you can learn so much from them. Obviously not as much as seeing it in person, but if you really take the time to really diagnose and watch all these little minute things that they do, watch the way their ears twist, watch when they start licking their nose. A deer does not waste any motion in the woods. Everything they do is so calculated for an exact reason. And you really can learn a lot from footage if you take the time to really invest in it.
Yeah. And I said it before, and I'll say it to the day I die. Knowing the biology of a white-tailed deer, your game. You look at it like this. If you're let's use sports, you're doing everything you can to learn about your opponent. Like, all right, if this player tends to face this way, he's going to be running the ball in the opposite direction. All right, now I know I have to plan for that. If you can plan, if you know the biology of white-tailed deer and what they're doing day in and day out, month to month, year to year, and the makeup of a deer, you're going to be well compared to the person that just goes out there and starts learning hunting and knowing the deer movement.
Right.
If for a long-term aspect look of it all, I guess.
Sure. I treat harvesting a mature doe just as much of a victory, maybe even sometimes more than harvesting a buck. If you could beat a mature nanny doe, let's say there's 2 doe groups coming in. Now you got 2 mature does, a couple of fawns kicking around. Now that's X amount of eyes, X amount of noses, ears, all working against. If you can execute a lethal shot and harvest a deer when you got 10 deer around you and they're at 20 yards and you didn't get wind checked, you didn't get snorted, you beat the movement because you had good cover, and you're able to execute a lethal archery shot, that is a win. You beat them in their living room against all odds. Like, I feel like we take it for granted. Some guys like, yeah, I got a doe. It's just a doe. Just a doe. I mean, you got that thing came into 15 yards in their environment, and you got the shot done, and you recovered it. That's a win. So right. I feel like sometimes, like a doe harvest, it gets kind of blown over. I'm telling you, man, I have no problem shooting does. I trust my does as far as scouting. I kind of have a saying, like, in my does, I trust. But when it's hunting season, man, I let it rip. I eat the meat. My family eats it. My dog eats it. So I have no problem shooting does. But that's a win. Executing a good shot, good clean shot on a nanny doe, that's a win.
I swear, hunting does, especially here in Michigan, is like the hardest fucking thing there is because they're just freaking geniuses. I've been hunting. This will be my 18th year. I've shot 2 deer, shot 2 does. One was in no man's land, and the other one was just a bad shot. I hate myself for it. And I have yet to put my tag on a doe.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed to say it. The does out here, they're freaking Einsteins in the woods, man. I don't know what it is, but I don't know.
Hey, I tell you what, man, if anybody claims to be an archery hunter and they don't have some fucked up story from a hunt, or they tell you they never shoulder shot a deer, or they missed, or something, some bad night or day in the woods, they're either full of shit or they haven't been bow hunting long enough. That's the only 2 options that is, because if you bow hunt long enough, you're going to miss. You're going to hit him in the gut. You're going to hit him in the shoulder. it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We do everything we can. We practice as much as we can. We put out we get the best equipment maybe that we can afford, and we train with it and we tune with it. Things happen. Things happen in the woods. You're in a tree that's swinging. You're shooting at an animal that's never going to be constantly perfectly still. Things are going to happen. So what you do as a hunter is you owe it to that animal. You put the best recovery effort that you can on it, whatever means that is. You know, if you're able to get a tracking dog, whatever you're physically able to do, whether that's physically just days of tracking. But eventually you got to move on. And it sucks. You're going to lose sleep over it. You're going to feel like the worst hunter ever. You're going to feel like you don't want to pick up your bow again. But you know what? Learn from it. Take whatever you can from it and move on. And that next harvest that you get, it's just such a relief. It's such not an ego boost, a morale boost. And then you're right back in the game.
Yeah, it's something where you can't let that one bad experience ruin your hunting and deter you from not going out in the woods again.
No.
Use that as a motivator to get back out in the woods and train harder and do better.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we're not out there to go out there and just wound the deer. We're out there to make sure we're getting the most clean, ethical, fastest kill shot possible. But at the end of the day, if you're hunting with a bow, it's the hardest fucking thing possible because you gotta get this deer, let's just say 40 yards within.
Yeah.
Your knot can fall off your string. Your release can accidentally hit on your D loop. You might accidentally, when you're pulling back, accidentally hit it. And so many of these variables can go on. That's why I love bow hunting, because you have all these minute things that could go wrong compared to just pulling up a gun, looking up and shooting. You have like 5 things that could go wrong to compare it to like a million. So
exactly. If you want to learn patience, pick up bow hunting. If you want to lose patience, keep bow hunting. But that circle, it keeps going full circle, and that's why it's such a humbling sport that we take on. And guys that are really into bow hunting, I feel like it's almost like it fully takes you in and pulls you in, as opposed to maybe where like rifle hunting or shotgun hunting, which is totally fine. I'm not bashing it, but there's something about the archery world and the archery hunters where a lot of times it consumes you, and it's for that reason. It's close encounters. It's up close and personal. You got nobody to blame but yourself. And it really is just so rewarding. So I definitely want to preach that. Any deer harvest you get with a bow, whether it's compound, if it's a crossbow, I don't care. I mean, crossbows gets into a gray line. You know, if you got a medical issue and a crossbow gets you in the woods and it's legal, rock and roll. Like you did.
Whitetail 101 here says, if you can't kill a doe in one sit, you are doing something very fundamentally wrong. I know that's tough to hear, but it's true. Granted,
it's true.
For me, though, when it comes to my does in my 18 years of hunting, we have a family law where if you see a doe come out and it's got a yearling or anything like that, then that doe is automatically off limits. I mean, I know that the yearling stuff can live on their own because they're in that time frame. Yeah, they can live on their own, but it's just I don't know. It's just been a law that's been passed down, and if you violate it, you're basically banned from hunting in life. But the couple of times I've had chances to shoot at does, the times I did shoot them, it was because they didn't have anything behind them. The majority of the time I've seen the does, they either got 3 other does with them, or they got yearlings, and I just can't. It's like I can't pick up my bow because then that one's going to see me. So,
right,
yeah.
It could also be to the fact that maybe you're not in the game. Like if you're not getting encountered with at least one doe in a sit, maybe you take that as all right, maybe like what happened tonight? What happened this morning where I didn't even see a tail? Now, don't get me wrong, that's going to happen. You're going to have a lot of sits where you don't see nothing. Doesn't necessarily you did anything wrong, but if you're on a streak and you're in the same tree, let's say, and you got 2 days and you didn't even see a tail flicker, all right. Let's think about this. What's going on? Where are the deer? Because at that point, that's why we're mobile hunters. Let's get down, let's regroup, and we get after them.
Right. All right, Dave. We're getting here to the tail end of the show.
Wow.
I got five. I said five. 5 rapid fire questions here that I want to throw your way. Okay.
All right. Good.
All right. First one. What is one state you want to hunt in that you haven't hunted yet?
I'm going to throw you for a loop on this one, and it's a complete loop. I've waterfowl hunted enough with my dad here on the bays and everything. I want to do a flooded timber hunt in Arkansas for waterfowl.
Oh, wow.
I always want it. It is 100% on my bucket list. There's something about that. These guys coming through on the John boats and the swamp boats early in the morning, just zipping around, they're throwing out all the deeks. They're standing, in the flooded timbers, watching the dogs work. That is 100% on my bucket list.
That sounds like a blast, really.
Yeah. I know it's like completely oddball for instead of whitetails. It's just one of those things I've always wanted to do.
All right, you can't pick your state, but
Okay.
what is one state that you would want to move to solely for hunting?
I would say Midwest. I've never done any travel hunts. Obviously, somewhere maybe like in that golden prime Ohio, Iowa area. Maybe Ohio. I've heard a lot of good hunting from Ohio. So if I had to pick one, I would pick there.
All right. What animal is on your bucket list to hunt, and with what weapon?
Well, being that my teammates just went to Africa, and we've got some good connections in Africa now. If Africa happens and it's an archery hunt, I'll be happy with anything that hits the ground. That would be something I never thought I would do in my lifetime. But again, just from the connections you build and everything we're doing now, working together, that could be a reality. So I would say an Africa hunt, archery, and anything at that point.
I had Jesse from Grizz Media on the show when we were covering Michigan, and he loves going to Africa to hunt. And he says, like, the conservation out there is like tenfold. And if you really want to learn stuff, Africa is the place to go.
Yes.
It's like, I gotta go to Africa now.
Yeah. So I know that was a little vague, but it's definitely, like I said, they definitely sparked an interest, which is an interest I never even remotely had.
No, I think if you're going to Africa, you're right. Whatever I get my arrow go through, that's gonna be it. So
yeah, exactly.
PSE Mobile Hunter, you said Cape Buffalo archery hunt would be sick. That actually would be pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Do you have any hunting superstitions? If so, what are they?
I would say upon getting a deer, whether it's a doe or a buck, I always call my dad first, call or text, and then it's the wife. Just let her know, hey, I'm going to be a little while. We got some meat on the ground. I can't think of anything as far as like a superstition. I have OCD, so I definitely I pre-pack everything. So if something's not right when I'm packing, I definitely, like, I've actually had to go back to my house to make sure, like, make sure I got everything I need, or more so like pull over. All right, physically checking my pack. I got my release. I got my binos. I got my range. All right, I'm good to go.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like I gotta make sure everything's in its right compartment and stuff like that. And if I'm missing something, I'm like,
yeah, I can't keep going unless I physically. All right, I got this. I keep 3 releases on me. One stays in my truck, one stays on my harness, and one stays in my pack. So if I happen to forget all 3, maybe I wasn't meant to be in a tree that day. I'll take that as a sign. Maybe I'll just stay home today.
Right.
Yeah.
Last and final question. What is one thing that you can think of that we as a hunting community should or could do to help improve the hunting community as a whole?
Social media is such a great tool when we use it the right way. We need to constantly remind ourselves that anything we're sharing doesn't just go to our inner circle of hunters. They understand maybe some inside jokes that a picture or a video may show. We need to be super cautious, not cater, just be aware of anything we post or share to the outside world. We need to be the best outdoors men and women as possible. We need to be as ethical as possible, and we just need to be on the top of our game. So again, we don't need to cater, but there's a lot of people out there would like to see us, men and women, never hunt again or fish again. So it's up to all of us just to do our due diligence, support each other, support each other's harvest as long as it was legal and ethical, and really just work together, support each other. If somebody's starting a brand or a page, support them. It doesn't cost anything. Follow along, share it, like it for them. they're taking the time to try and do it, doesn't matter. I started out, I'm one guy, I'm nobody in the grand scheme of things. And when I hit like 100 followers, I was like, holy shit, this is pretty cool. And here I am 3 years into it. I have a brand that's trademarked, like we talked about. We're doing all these shows that air coast to coast. It's just support and remember the ethics that we're all taught, at a young age.
Respect, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's a loss of virtue in today's world and culture now, and it's sad to see. But I think as hunters, we carry the torch as much as possible when it comes to respect. But we still have some in the hunting world where we kind of bash on each other.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, 99.9% of all hunters, we are always trying to do our best to support each other, like you said. And I think we need to continue that and do. We might think we might be doing great at it, but I think we can always be doing better.
Continuous improvement. That's an industry term, like a business term, but it's true. The one example I use for that is you don't know that hunter's backstory. That man or woman could have literally just lost their job. They have kids at home, and they're literally out there hunting to provide essential food for their family. So who the hell are we to say that spike wasn't worth it, that 4-pointer, that doe? You don't know. If they're happy and it was legal, support.
Exactly. Well, Dave, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. For people that want to reach out to you and get to know you, ask questions, or just follow more along with your brand there, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
Sure. So I'm very active and responsive on the Instagram platform, and my Instagram is at urban_pursuit_. I do have a YouTube page that's linked up with that, and that's at urban_pursuit_25. One thing I would like to pitch, if you don't mind, that we talked about it earlier, is we do a live show as well, very similar to this, and we're always welcoming new guests, just like how you do. The Instagram is at Pursuit Live Official, and our YouTube page is just at Pursuit Live. So that show airs weekly, Friday, Eastern Standard Time at 8 o'clock. And we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for having me on. And again, there's plenty of room in this social media space for all of us. And again, it's not like your show against my show against somebody else's show. Let's just do it together. There's plenty of room for everybody.
Exactly. Well, Dave, make sure to send me all those if you can, and we'll get them released up on when our podcast version gets released later on.
Thank you.
Hopefully next week. But again, Dave, I just want to say thank you again so much, man. Glad to meet a new friend here, all the new friends that commented in tonight. I'm sorry if I didn't get to every single one, but it was an amazing turnout here. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and pitching in for tonight's show. I know we've had a blast here with it, me, Dave, and I, so I can't say thank you enough. And Dave, again, thank you again, man. I'll talk to you later, man. I hope you have a great rest of your night, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And we're here, my team and everybody on my side's here for you.
All right, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow, buddy.
Sounds good.
See ya. Nope. Don't want that button. There we go. All right. Sorry. I'm doing it all by myself, so sorry about that. Anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in for tonight's show. I greatly appreciate it. Final notes here. We're going to be in what's next week? Man, I'm drawing a blank right now. North Carolina? I think we're in North Carolina next week. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to be taking the weekend obviously off. So we'll be back on to it with next Tuesday. Make sure to go check out Grizz Media, Magnus Broadheads. Use the code GP10, get 10% discount off Gilly Puck products. Again, if you also want to be a guest on our show or anything like that, I'll never tell anybody no. So feel free to reach out to us on our social media platforms, or you can send me an email to brettboven@whitetail.com. And all else to say is just help share the show. It's all I ask. Put your cord in the slot machine. And I can't say thank you enough to everyone that's been out there supporting the show. Like we said, we have a new teammate on here, Johnny. So we're excited to have him now on the show. Part of the brand here, the team, and the family. But again, with that being said, we'll see everyone next week, and put your cord in the slot machine.
Thank Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.